the same place where we spent a few minutes last night at the end of Shemini Atzeret praying together. So I thought I'd come back here the day after to film my little video about what Shemini Atzeret is all about. As you can see, it's really very beautiful here. We yesterday went on a hike up along a creek in search of living water for Shemini Atzeret, and I'm going to explain what that is a little bit. But basically, we took a picnic lunch, and then we went on a hike, and we went and found living water, and then when we came back, we ate our picnic lunch and we discussed some more what Shemini Atzeret is all about. At Shemini, where we stop, there's a little bridge that goes over the river. It's really neat when we get there and we're in search of living water, in search of the Ruach HaKodesh, the outpouring of the Ruach, the Spirit. We sit there and we dangle our feet over this little bridge with the water moving underneath us, and we close our eyes and we just let the Ruach flow through us and let her breathe into us and let her tell us whatever she wants to say, and we just become one with the Elohim. It's a beautiful moment, and when you sit there and you just let that water just wash right over you. Okay, so Shemini Atzeret is actually kind of a tacked on feast to the end of Sukkot. It's a very interesting feast because when he commands us to Sukkot, he says for 7 days, live in a sukkah, and then on the 8th day, have this other little feast. And so it's kind of a bewildering little feast because it's tacked on at the end of Sukkot. But it is an incredible feast. It has incredible meaning, deep meaning to it. Shemini Atzeret is a High Shabbat, so it is the last High Shabbat of the Feast of Sukkot. So Sukkot, you have the first day, it is the High Shabbat, the day that Yahshua was born. 7 days later, the day after that is the 8th day, you have Shemini Atzeret, and that is the final day of Sukkot, so how the scripture says it, and that day is a High Shabbat, the day that Yahshua was circumcised. He was circumcised on Shemini Atzeret on the 8th day when he was 8 days old. Okay, so Shemini Atzeret is actually also known as the last great day, which is a day we all want to be a part of, on the good side. Get to see Papa come and bring the New Jerusalem and then make a new time. It'll be a new time. There's a few ways that we can discover the meaning of Shemini Atzeret. One is in the name itself, Shemini Atzeret, meaning Shemini meaning 8, Atzeret meaning to collect. So there's beautiful meaning in both those words there. Also, how did they celebrate Shemini Atzeret in the ancient days? We can look at that as well. So let's kind of look at this for a minute. So Shemini Atzeret, Shemini meaning 8. So 8 in Hebrew, the word means new. It means brand new, actually. It means not a new thing, but new. If you look at the idea that you have Sukkot, where you are kind of representing the 7 millenniums, the 6 millenniums that we get to try to do it our way, ourselves. The 7th millennium when Yahshua, the King, comes and he does it his way. The 8th millennium is really all about Yehovah coming and living with his people. Shemini means 8, it means the 8th. So it also has other words, Shemoah, I think, let me look. Let me look. I think it's Shemoah. Yeah, Shemoah, Shemona. It means 8 as well, so, or the number 8. So, but Shemini means 8th. So, brand new, complete. Something is complete, something new is coming. So. The 7th millennium, Yahshua comes and lives with his bride, and then on the 8th millennium you have Yehovah bringing the New Jerusalem and creating a new heaven and a new earth, and then Papa gets to live with us. Papa lives with us from the 8th millennium on. It's a new time, a new heaven, a new earth. Not new as in totally different, but new, made new. That is exciting. I think that the number 8 in correlation with Shemini Atzeret is very revealing about what this feast is about. If you look at Atzeret, then the word Atzeret is the Hebrew word for collect, to collect. So it's like a gathering of waters. It's like collection of something to sustain you. Atzeret is derived from the Hebrew word atzer, and which means to collect or to store. The purpose of this festival of Shemini Atzeret is to store in our memories everything we experienced and gained during the preceding fall feasts. The good days will carry us through the winter time, will carry us to the next feast, and we'll retain the spiritual understandings that we gained. We'll retain them and will not lose sight of them in everyday life. So the idea of gaining throughout these feasts and then collecting them and remembering them so they can take you through until the next feast season. So I like this quote from Mr. Jeff Ziff that I'm just going to read to you real quick. On the 8th day, the great day, the last great day, we collect the water we have accessed. It becomes a well from which we can nourish ourselves as we resume ordinary life. The connection of the well to Shemini Atzeret can be translated as assembly or collection. On this day, we assemble within ourselves the storehouse of energy which will fuel our efforts through the remainder of the year as we bring light into the darkness. Just as we can store water in a cistern, joy energizes our continued efforts through the year. Joy is a powerful, powerful energy booster, is it not? One of the things that we look at on Shemini Atzeret is the idea that we look back over the feasts that we just came through. So you have Yom Teruah on the first day of the 7th month, and then you have the 10 days of awe, and then you have Yom Kippur. 5 days later, you have Sukkot for 7 days, and then here we are at Shemini Atzeret. And so you look back and you go, what treasures have I collected over the fall feast season? And you're collecting all those treasures to kind of sustain you until through the winter time. So we looked yesterday at several things that we had learned over the course of this last fall feast, different treasures that Papa had given us, that Yahshua had given us, that the rock had revealed to us. And it's important to remember what they have brought us through and what treasures they have given us before we go and ask for more. So for me, I was looking back and thinking about the kind of treasures that Papa has revealed to me over the course of the last fall feast season, and I had to remember that on Yom Teruah, Isaac and I were led into the understanding of what Yahshua meant by believe on me and be saved. So the word believe there, see and believe. Believe what? Believe that Yahshua is the prophet that Moses spoke of that we need to Shema. So that was beautiful. That whole mind map that we did, and the understanding that Isaac got, that was a beautiful treasure for Yom Teruah. Move forward to Yom Kippur, we were studying about that and discovered the 10 days of awe and what that means, what it really is about. We thought it was nothing. We thought it was just a Jewish tradition, but actually it has very deep meaning. It correlates with the two letters one to Smyrna and one to Philadelphia in Revelation, and then the 10 virgins. There's bugs out here. And it correlates with the 10 virgins, the 5 who had oil, the 5 who did not, but all 10 were keeping the Torah, and the 5 who had the oil had the open door to go directly into the king, and the 5 who did not had to, go get the Ruach, go get the oil. So understanding what the 10 days of awe were about, and that our brother Judah needs our prayer so that they can avoid the 10 days of awe and have that open door right away and not have to go through that testing period. So to be able to meet us at the Great Wedding Feast. So that was a beautiful treasure. We got to understand what we can do. We can pray for our brother Judah and what the 10 days of awe are for. So, and then we come forward to Sukkot, and something that really struck me this year was Sukkot. This is a kingdom treasure that, a pearl that I got this year that I'm collecting today or yesterday I collected on Shemini Atzeret. The thing about living together. So Sukkot for me, it was a very eye-opening thing to just go, wow, you know what? I've known this in my head, but in all reality, we're in a situation where we're living together in this little retreat, this cabin, and for some of the days of Sukkot, and kind of participating in each other's lives and learning about each other. Who needs to sleep when? Who likes to eat what? Who likes to do what, who likes to play board games, just all this stuff that we learned, and about living together, about loving each other, about accepting each other and forgiving each other, or just, enjoying each other's company, learning from each other, and just really seriously sitting with, the differences are good. In Israel that is repentant and coming back to Papa, there's going to be a whole lot of cultures and different ideas of how to do life, but to live in a situation, to have 7 days where Papa's saying, okay, I want you to practice living together. I think that really struck me this year. I love everyone that came, that we had a great time, but I was just realizing, that this is a really great opportunity, Sukkot, to learn and practice living together with your family, with Israel, the family of Yahweh, the bride-to-be. So it's preparing us to live together in the future when Yahshua comes back, and we're going to do this for real. One of the other pearls that I have gleaned from this last fall feast season is also this Psalms 81. When we really started looking at Psalms 81, trying to help with people's issues with the calendar, and trying to get to project a really clear voice about what calendar is, the biblical scriptural calendar, the Aviv barley and the sighted moon. We looked at Psalms 81 because some people want to throw that out, but honestly you can't throw that out. And neither can you throw out the command in the Torah to observe your months. The word observe, you can't throw out the idea that Papa says in the month of Aviv, celebrate Passover on the 14th day. You have to figure out what Aviv means. So Yahweh is pretty specific about how we are supposed to be reckoning time in order to find his calendar, his Moedim calendar. But in Psalms 81, I discovered this great pearl and found out that the word feast is Hag, and Hag actually in the Strongs it means pilgrim or pilgrimage, and Yehovah only refers to 3 feasts. My hands are cold. He only refers to 3 feasts as the feasts, and they're all pilgrimage feasts. All the other ones he refers to, as appointments, but only 3. Only unleavened bread, Shavuot, and Sukkot are Hag feast, the feast, travel feast, pilgrimage feast. And it says in Psalms 81 that you're supposed to go to the feast during the full moon. So in the middle of the month you have it's very clear right there. You travel to the feast, it's a pilgrimage, you travel up under a full moon, you have light. So that was a really cool pearl that I came away from this fall feast season with as well. So I think that's 5 pearls that I got this year. 4 or 5. See? Do you see how easy it is to forget, my friend? Man, we have got to collect these things, these treasures, or we're gonna lose them. It's just days afterwards and I'm still like, okay, what were they again? Write them down, video them, voice them, tape them, put them up on your walls, do anything to remember what Papa has given you. Don't forget. Don't be a forgetter. And don't forget them, because as John Eldridge says, forgetfulness is our worst enemy. So our worst enemy is we forget. Forget. We're forgetful. So figure out how to store them up so that you can remember them next year. Alright, so you know the verses that go, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourself treasures in heaven where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Yahshua said this. And so on Shemini Atzeret, we look back and we go, what treasures do we have that are kingdom treasures that no man can take from us? And you remember those, you write them down so that you can mull on it. This is part of why I do exactly what I do. I mean, I'm doing videos, I do books, I do websites. You know, and part of it, I'm just a mom. I'm just a woman I'm just a wife and a mom who is in love with Yahshua. And every year we do this. This was our 10th year we've done the fall feast. I went back and looked yesterday finally to figure it out. 10th year. And every single year there's so many wonderful new things and treasures that Papa has given us that, you know, if I never wrote it down, if I never videoed it, if I never tried to do anything to collect those things, we'd totally forget. I mean, we came up to yesterday and went, wait, what was this feast about? I mean, this is the 10th time we've actually walked through this and this feast or this Moedim, and we had to be reminded, and we were reminded by the things that I've written down, the little handbooks I have made, and you know, the people we have studied, we reference them, we have those things printed out, but I've got it collected in a manner of which my family can drink from. And I think it's really important for you to do for your family too, no matter who you are. I mean, I've been a career girl, I've been a stay-at-home mom, I've been all kinds of different things. No matter what we do, no matter where we are, no matter where I am, I'm constantly collecting these kingdom treasures, and I don't want to lose them. It's the last thing I want to do is lose something that Yahweh has given me, or that Yahshua has given me, or that Ruach has revealed to me. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to forget and then have to have them teach it to me again, you know, especially if it's painful. If it's painful, I want to, like, you know, get a clue quick, write it down, impress it upon myself, and I never do that again, or whatever. I've learned that lesson. I don't need to go back there. So collecting the treasures is extremely important at Shemini Atzeret. So also, like Yahshua says, he says, therefore, every teacher of the law who has been instructed about the kingdom of heaven is like the owner of a house who brings out of his storeroom new treasures as well as old. So our job as his bride to be is to store up his treasures and then bring them out as the Ruach informs us to, as the Ruach asks us to bring them out and share them with the rest of his bride. My son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, turning your ear to wisdom and apply your heart to understanding, and if you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, and if you look for it as for silver and search for it as hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of Yehovah and find the knowledge of Elohim. What does he say? It's the glory of Yehovah to hide a matter and the honor of kings to search it out. So he hides treasures, and we get to search them out, and he reveals those treasures to his people. My husband Isaac has said that, and I quote, "A kingdom treasure is a timely revelation when Elohim chooses to reveal parts of themselves that are very personal and very special. It becomes a very intimate experience to receive a kingdom treasure from Yahuwah. It is him sharing with you in hopes that you will take good care of the gift, his heart, that you will take care of the gift and his heart, with the hope that you will fall in love with him." So Elohim does not waste their kingdom treasures on hearts who are not aligned with them. The masses can have all the information they want about him, but only his friends get the goods. Only his friends, only his bride, the bride-to-be of his son Yahshua, get the kingdom treasures. Yahshua even encourages us to say, when he said that, when you see a piece of land and there's this pearl in this land, you go and you want that pearl, you go sell everything that you have so that you can buy that piece of property and own that pearl. It's the same thing here. Getting kingdom treasures is like, you see that there's this kingdom treasure and you want that more than anything. You're going to go do whatever it takes to get that kingdom treasure. That's how I feel about things of the kingdom, things of Papa. I will do anything to receive his kingdom treasures, because in them is life. In them is, I find beauty in them that sustain me. And the more of them that I have, the more life that I have. And I want that life in me. I don't want to, be falling apart like everybody else around me. I want to be really clear on who I am and have grounding in them. I want them to be my center, to be everything. And I want to have that open communication with them where I'm all day long. I just am, meditating on his statutes day and night and leaning on him just like King David did. So, kingdom treasures. Have I said enough about that so you understand what that's about? Good. Let's go on to something else. Okay, so one thing about Shemini Atzeret is that it's the beginning of a new rainy season, the beginning of a new harvest. So in Israel, in the land of Israel, they would be praying for rain, but they didn't want rain during tabernacles because they didn't want it to interrupt them living in the Sukkot. So on Shemini Atzeret, we access the living waters of salvation through the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh and the outpouring of her to be fully fulfilled on the future Shemini Atzeret. So the outpouring of the Ruach, there are tons of scriptures about the outpouring of the Ruach. I mean, Joel 2, 28-29, Psalms 42, 1-2, Isaiah 55, all over through there in John 4, 10 and 14. So there's lots of scriptures that talk about the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh, which Shemini Atzeret, right by living water. Water's like the Ruach flowing through you, bringing life and nutrients into your heart, cleaning you up, getting you ready to stand before your King. And guess what? It's starting to rain again. Oh, winter's going to be a long winter. So on Shemini Atzeret, you would be praying for rain because that's when you want the rain. And it has direct connection to the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh, the latter rain. And that's one reason we go in search of living water during Shemini Atzeret and go for a hike. So one of the ways we can discover what Shemini Atzeret is all about is by reading what Yahshua spoke on that day. Because he, the prophet that Moses spoke of, that we need to Shema, we need to listen to him. And what did he speak on that day? Because he interprets the feast throughout his 70-week ministry. The Chronological Gospels, an awesome translation that will help us understand where he was during the feast and what he spoke about. So I'm just going to read here from John 7, 37-43 to discover what Yahshua was talking about. He says, it says, in the last great day of the feast, Shemini Atzeret, Yahshua stood up and cried out, "If any man thirst, let him come to me and drink. He that believes on me, as the scripture has said, out of his belly shall flow streams of living water." But this he spoke of the Spirit, which those who believe in him should receive. but the Ruach HaKodesh was not yet given, because Yahshua was not yet glorified. So, he was talking about water, he was talking about becoming living water, he was talking about the Ruach HaKodesh, and notice that he hadn't been glorified yet. So he had been transfigured at Yom Kippur, but he hadn't been glorified, as in he hadn't died and come back and resurrected and been glorified in all that way. So the Ruach, he had to leave for the Ruach to come. So it's interesting though what he was talking about, because this leads us right into the idea of looking at the temple services. So what he was doing was, during their temple service, they had this water libation service that happened on the last great day. It happened all through the Feast of Sukkot, but it happened on the last great day. There was a really special part of the water libation service that Jim Staley talks about. It's amazing. You should get his stuff on it and read how he talks about the water libation service and how incredible it is. But Yahshua was standing up during this time, like he does at the Feast of Hanukkah. He goes up to Hanukkah and he's like, I am the light of the world. He goes up to the temple while they're doing the water pouring ceremony. He goes, I am the water that gives life. You come to me and I'll give you water and you'll never thirst again. So he's going up to the feast. He's interpreting it for us. So the water libation ceremony is pretty incredible. I just really started studying what Jim Staley has written about it. And just briefly, because Jim does a much better job than I'm going to do, so you go ahead and get his stuff here. But just briefly, water is life. The ancient people, even now, I mean, nobody would live without water. Not just the ancient people, we would die too without water. So water is extremely important. And if you look at the water libation ceremony, I guess, as Jim Staley says, it was an incredible, beautiful event that everybody was rejoicing over, and it really was a tradition that all of Israel was so excited to watch and be a part of on Shemini Atzeret. As they watched the priests do this, they would walk down, go down to the pool of Shalom, I think as you say it, they would draw out some water, they would take it back up to the temple, and they would pour it mixed with blood from the sacrifice into these grooves, and the grooves would then come together, and the water and the blood would mix together, and it would fall down onto the altar. I mean, talk about symbolic, talk about prophetic, because we know that when Yahshua died on Pesach and the soldier came and speared his side, water and the blood flowed out. They together mixed, and they went down through the crack in the ground, and they anointed the Ark of the Covenant that was below him in the ground that Ron Wyatt found years ago. That is a huge story. If you don't know that his has been found and been tested by Israeli laboratories, you need to go watch Ron Wyatt's stuff on finding the Ark of the Covenant and all the other things that he has found, the Noah's Ark and the crossing site and stuff. So anyway, the water libation ceremony, incredibly prophetic. Another thing that part of the libation ceremony is that the Pool of Shalom, as far as I understand, of course I haven't been to Israel, so again I'm teaching what I have been taught by people that I believe are sent by Yahweh with anointings to teach us things that ring true. Anyway, as far as I understand, the Pool of Shalom was, or another body of water, I think it was the Pool of Shalom that was in front of the temple. And so when anybody needed to or wanted to go to the temple back in the ancient days, they had to go through a mikveh first. So they had to actually go through a full entire mikveh in order to get into the temple. So on the other side they get white robes, as far as I understand, and then they could go into the temple, into Yahweh's presence. So they had to be mikvah'd first. I think the Pool of Shalom was like an acre or something, and so there was plenty of room. Everybody would go down the steps and then they'd climb out on the other side, ceremonially clean, and then they could meet with Papa. So how prophetic is that, or a shadow picture of what has to happen in order for us to enter the presence of Yahweh? We have to have the Ruach HaKodesh in us. We have to be mikvah'd into Yahshua, into the family name. We have to get clean. Our heart has to be completely clean so that we can stand before Yahweh. And we climb out on the other side, we go through the mikveh, climb out on the other side, we work out our salvation so that we can wear the white robes. So we have the white robes of righteousness or right doing, so that we can go and enter before Yahweh and actually get into his presence and have the communication and the one-on-one relationship that was always meant to be, and which is the final result. Anyway, I need to be mikvahd in the Ruach. I need to go through the waters of purification in order to have access to Yehovah. We all do. There's no accessing him without the Ruach in us, the water of life. Yeshua's drinking from Yahshua, eating from Yahshua. There's no access to Yehovah until we are partaking in that. So I think that's really cool. There's that body of water there between the people and access to Papa, and it's representative of the Ruach HaKodesh. You must mikvah to have access. Way cool. Which we do mikvahs on Shavuot, so I'll talk about that later. I mean, you do mikvahs all year long for different reasons, but we do the mikvah of identification on Shavuot, which I'll tell you about later. And as Jim Staley points out in his article about the water libation ceremony that happened on the last great day of Sukkot, or Shemini Atzeret, he talks about how when they drew the water out of the pool of Shalom, it was in one simple sense, it was tithing. So here's water that is incredibly precious, and they're taking it and they're just dumping it out onto the altar, so it looks like it's a waste, but it is not. It's actually like a tithe, and I think that's a really cool aspect to Shemini Atzeret, and learning to tithe something that he has given us in thanks back to him. So we take what he has part of what he has given to us, and we give it back to him, because saying thank you is part of the process of relationship, is it not? So if we never said thank you, if we never were thankful for what was given, why would the giver give more? Jim Staley wrote, whenever we let go of something that is precious for the sake of the kingdom of God, the reward is always greater than the investment. And I know that's true. I know that's true. When we give our tithes and we have hardly anything left over for our own personal stuff, reward comes, or blessing comes, and I don't need to worry, because what he wants is our hearts. And part of our hearts is saying thank you, which I'm trying to still teach my children how to do. And if you also remember in the Torah, the instructions that Papa gives us about, coming before him, when we come before him during the appointed times, we are not to show up empty-handed. And Jim Staley made a point that it means tight-handed or tight-fisted. So the idea of not holding on to something so tightly because that's what you're looking for provision. You're going to offer it, you're going to tithe it, you're going to thank him by giving back to him part of something that he has given you, because he's going to continue to provide. It's a trust thing, it's a faith thing, it's walking out your faith. It's saying, man, I trust you, I've seen you do this before, I am going to give you what you asked for because I want to, because I know that you will come through for me again and again and again and again. It's not one time does it for the rest of your life. It's a walk. This is how we do every single day. And those that know how to give, let go, lay down at Papa's feet, they're happier people. They're happier people. Generosity makes you happy. Water is directly linked to blessings. So if you have water, then you're blessed, because there's a connection to life there with the water. So if you have living water in you, you are blessed. If you don't have it, then you're dry, then you're a desert. Yeah, so as we basically get under the spout of Yahovah, as he's pouring out the Ruach HaKodesh and the living water through his son, we have to get in alignment with him in order to be under the spout, or under the water as it flows. If we're not showing up to his things and doing things his way, we're not going to be there under his spout and get the water that we need so that we can have streams of living water flowing through us. So the water libation ceremony was all about Yahshua, all about his prophetic fulfillment of it in the future, just months later. Jim Staley writes, Yahshua said that he was the water that they were parading around, that he was the water that gave them life. And if anyone drank from him, they would never be thirsty. Again, he was the entire point of the water libation ceremony to begin with. It was all about him. He was the eternal well of salvation that could take one from a lower position at the base of the mountain, at the pool, and bring them to the top of the mountain into perfect communion with him. So the idea of going through the pool, the water, the Ruach HaKodesh, and going up to be able to have intimate fellowship with Yahovah starts with drinking from Yahshua and receiving the gift that he gave, which is the Ruach HaKodesh. Oh, have I said enough? It's a wonderful thing. So, water libation ceremony, part of Shemini Atzeret. And one little interesting thing that Jim Staley makes a point of, which is something new for me, understanding that the heaven, the word heaven in Hebrew is Shemayim. I think that's how you say it, and it has two words in it, Mayim meaning water and Shem meaning name. And so you look at the name of the heaven, the word heaven, and it actually means water coming down from the name, out of the name, or the name of Yahovah. So we have living water, life coming down from heaven, coming down from the name, coming down from Yahovah. Beautiful. I just want to stand under him and just get rained on. I hope it's warm rain. I'm pretty cold. I want warm rain. But one of the things that I absolutely love about Shemini Atzeret, it is, I read an article a long time ago about somebody's commentary on it, and they were talking about how it's a day that Papa has set aside to linger a little longer together. And let me unpack that just a bit. During the temple services, the priests would basically offer 70 bowls for the nations during Sukkot. So during Sukkot, you had these offerings of 70 bowls, representative of the 70 nations. But on Shemini Atzeret, you see only one bowl being sacrificed for the nation of Israel. And I think that's really interesting. The commentary that I read was likening it to a bride and a groom. You know, you have your wedding that happens on Yom Kippur. You have this beautiful, feast time with your family and friends and everyone that gets celebrating for those 7 days of Sukkot. And then the guests go home and the bride and groom linger a little longer together. One more day. It's like Papa saying, please just hang with me one more day. I just love you so much, and I just want to be just with you, just with my bride. And that is one of the most beautiful things about Shemini Atzeret. On Shemini, we have actually no commanded mitzvah. There's no props for us to use in the celebration of this Moedim. There's no matzah, there's no menorah, there's no shofar, there's no lulav or sukkahs. It seems rather actually naked. It's almost like it's a shadow picture of a time when there'll be no props between us and Yahovah, when we'll have direct contact and nothing will come between us. It's very symbolic of a future unending honeymoon where there will be nothing between us and Elohim. We will drink and dine and dance face to face with our groom and our true family. This is actually the heart of Shemini Atzeret. It's the heart of this Moedim. It's face to face, one-on-one, lingering a little longer with your bride and your groom. Another thing about Shemini, something that we talked about yesterday and got reminded on, is that the idea that Yahshua says, do not throw your pearls to swine. So something that we realized yesterday, one of the kingdom treasures actually that we received yesterday for Shemini Atzeret, was to remember that there were 70 bulls sacrificed for the 70 nations, and then only one bull for the nation of Israel on Shemini Atzeret, meaning it's a special day set aside for Israel, for his people, not for everyone. And so you look at Pesach. Pesach is another one of those. Pesach, and probably Yom Kippur is another one, possibly Shavuot, I don't know, but definitely Pesach, definitely Yom Kippur, and definitely Shemini Atzeret. They are set aside for Israel, for the bride to be. It's not for everyone, and they are our holidays. They're not the world's holidays. They're not Christians' holidays. They're not pagans' holidays. They're our holidays. They're Israel's holidays, Yahweh's holidays that he's given to Israel. So when we looked at that and the idea of throwing pearls to swine, you don't want to cast something so beautiful, so rich, so deep, so set apart to swine, to people who don't care, to you don't set that at their feet. You don't invite them into something that is really just for you and the groom. So that was another thing yesterday that we remembered and had to relearn yesterday. Yeshua's own words. Pretty powerful, and I think very controversial at the same time, because not a lot of people like to hear that. But I think it's true. I should remember that and be careful of who I invite in to partake in things that are kingdom things. They need to be kingdom people with kingdom eyes to see on some level. That doesn't mean that you don't invite as a Melchizedek priest. You do invite, and you hopefully are going to be able to help Papa find scattered Israel. But at the same time, I also am starting to really understand that it is the Ruach, be reminded, I guess I should say, that it is the Ruach's job to extract Israel out of the nations. Jehovah says, I am going to do that. I'm going to bring scattered Israel back. So like my job as a ministry leader and stuff, and somebody who's just obsessed with his ways and wants to write it all down and get it in a form where people can understand it and keep inviting people, my job is to invite people, because I will be accountable to Jehovah someday, and to Yeshua. I want to be able to look them in the eye and say I did everything that I could, but at the same time I also have to be willing to let them bring who they want and keep away who they want. They're the ones that know who the swine are. They're the ones who know who the bride is. And I guess as I grow older, I can tell too on some level. But so I don't have to make my home like this feeding ground for a place where we get hurt. So I think it works the same way. I think Yahweh works the same way when he's looking at who he wants to give his kingdom treasures to. He's not going to throw pearls before swine. Yeshua didn't. Yeshua spoke of parables, and if you had eyes to see and ears to hear, then you could understand what he was talking about. That's going to probably rub a lot of people wrong, but I think it's true. He's going to give kingdom treasures to those who he can trust. Okay, so I want to read to you a quote from Dr. David Perry that really speaks to Shemini Atzeret. Let me read it to you. It says, to start to understand covenant love, we must consider what exactly Yahweh has chosen to be an unending memorial sign of our love. It is found in keeping, what? The Shabbats. Of course, the Shabbats are like your engagement ring, remember? All right. And the annual Shabbats, the weekly Shabbats and the annual Shabbats, let's not forget the annual ones. What he has chosen, this is Dr. David Perry again, he says, what Yehovah has chosen, my friend, to symbolize what covenant love is all about time. Yes, time. What do small children want most from their parents? Time. What did parents need most if they were to love their children to the fullest? They need time. What did you and your spouse need when you were dating? You needed time, right? You didn't need a chaperone, you needed time. You needed quiet time together. You needed time alone. So gifts of time, time spent, time shared, quality time of connection is an integral I can't say that. Quality time of connection is an integral communicated part of the language of love. That's what Dr. David Perry says. This is especially true in Yehovah's covenant economy. You must invest time. to keep any meaningful relationship healthy, vital, vibrant, and current. Love is expressed in many ways. All those ways, both obvious and hidden, require time. Those that would love and would be loved must be unhurried. Isn't that wonderful? So Shabbat is really about spending time together. By giving him your time, you're telling your father, your family, your groom, your bridegroom to be, Yahshua, that you want them, that you want him, that you want to be a part of that family. You want to be his bride to be, because you're giving them time. Just like, I love that idea of little kids. What do little kids want most? They want your time. And so it's the same thing when you're dating. What do you need most? You need time. So I find that pretty beautiful about Shemini, in that it's one more little piece of time that he set apart for him and us to be together, him and his bride to be together. Time. It's all about time. That's what Shabbat is all about. And when people say, I don't have enough time, I'm too busy, here's really where the rubber of repentance hits the road, the rubber of do you really love him hits the road, is will you actually spend time when he's asking you to spend time? So the idea when people come up to Shabbat, I'm too busy, I have too much to do, I have this wedding to go to, or that business thing to take care of, or whatnot, and I don't have any time. Well, let's see, I might have some time I could carve out next Thursday at 3 o'clock for an hour. That's not gonna fly. You know, it's all about time. He's asking you to show up at this time, at this hour, at this day, at these certain times. He's asking his bride to be, his son's bride to be, to show up so that he can spend time with us. And when we say we're too busy, then we really don't want the relationship. We really don't want to be involved with that kind of God, that kind of a bridegroom. We want somebody who will cater to what we want, which is not them, it's another God. So if you can do that with another God, and that's what you want, so be it. But if you want the true living Elohim, then you need to set apart the time that he's asking us to set apart and meet with him on those days, because he is all about give me of yourself, give me your time. Definitely notice that his Shabbats don't show up any old time we choose. So we don't choose to Shabbat on Friday. We don't choose to Shabbat on Sunday or on Wednesday. Shabbat is the weekly Shabbat is a certain day of the week. It's the seventh day. It is on Saturday, from Friday night until Saturday night sunset. So, and then his Moedim, same thing. So that's why calendar is so important, because you can't just celebrate Shemini Atzeret on any old day you want, or any old calendar out there. You've got to figure out what is his calendar and then show up for that feast, that Moedim, on his calendar. It's really, really important. That's why the calendar issue is important, and one that we have taken a firm stand on as a ministry and as a family ourselves, to try to help, you know, clear up some confusion about it. I want to read you something that I wrote a while ago. The Moedim are best likened to a date night that a man sets for adventure, romance, and intimacy with his lady. He invites her and she agrees to go or not. Israel is the bride-to-be. The groom is the organizer. The beloved either agrees to show up or not to what he has planned. Frankly, as modern human beings, Western culture modern human beings, we are too used to the bride who organizes everything, including the romance. Yehovah and Yahshua model the more perfect way, for they are the perfect ones. For to be courted means that the groom makes a request to be with the bride, not the other way around. The seeker seeks its desire, and she responds. Strength pursues beauty, and then she, the beauty, unveils herself. Man allures woman, and he captures her heart. The creator woos the created, and she is saved in all the ways that she needs saved. So the groom picks the place, He picks the time, he chooses what activity they will start with, and then once he has his bride to be in his arms, he longs for her life to affect his and take his heart into new territory as well. He wants to feel the weight of her life against him. From the music in her heart to her smile, he is jealous of her love and attention. He craves her individually and collectively. The universe would say that she's a lucky lady to have the attention of such a wondrous man. And just to understand, to press into just a little bit more, it's not that the sought-after one or the bride-to-be can't also woo the seeker or the groom. No, of course she can. But it starts with Elohim's quest for us. It doesn't start for our quest for them. Just as the feminine heart in all her glory responds to a good man's affection, so we were designed to respond to Yehovah's invitation into oneness and covenant relationship with him. We, individually and collectively, are the lady who gets ready to be picked up at the hour that her lover has appointed for them to have a liaison. And if we choose to not meet him at the time and location of his request, then we have rejected his love and his request for more. Shemini Atzeret is one of those appointments that no bride-to-be will want to miss. Are you a bride-to-be? Are you one of Israel? Did you celebrate the fall feast? Did you enjoy yesterday with Shemini Atzeret? And did you meet with your king? Did you meet with your bridegroom for just a little bit longer? To just stay a little longer together in his arms? Did you take time yesterday during Shemini Atzeret to collect all the diamonds, all the pearls, all the wonderful things and gems that your beloved has given you over this fall feast season? Did you collect them? Did you put them somewhere into a treasure box so that you would never lose them and honor him by containing them? I think that's really cool. I think that's a really important part of Shemini Atzeret. So if any of you know me personally, you will know that I used to be a wedding photographer. Among many different kinds of photography, one of them that I did was wedding photography, and frankly, it was my favorite, hands down, kind of photography. The energy, the kind of event that was, the venue, it was just like a picture op at every turn that you took. I love romance. I love the idea of true love. I love the idea of, covenant love. So I loved being a wedding photographer, and being a wedding photographer, you got to go behind the scenes all day long, and you got the best seat in the house really to really feel what that day was like. So was my favorite thing for many, many years, and till I don't know, like something happened, something changed in me as I got more enlightened or understood the greater story better. Realizing that as I would watch these brides get ready for this big day, and all the time that they spent, and granted, I'm talking Western culture. So as I would watch these brides get ready for their big day, they were doing everything. They picked the cake, they picked the dress, they picked the venue, they picked what the guy was gonna wear. They did everything, and they basically said to the groom, just show up. I've got everything under control. So, that kind of preparations, everything, I guess, could kind of freak out a guy sometimes. Now, not all guys are like that, because I've had a couple weddings where it was the guy who pretty much did the whole thing. But for the most part, for majority of them, it was the woman that did so much, that paid for it and all this stuff. And so there was a lot of effort on the woman's part to get the groom to the altar. Now, I know that Seth was telling us yesterday in other countries, it's not so much like that there's other countries that the groom does everything. But in the culture that I grew up in, and from speaking from experience in this culture, what was striking me was that it comes over into our spiritual life. The idea that You know, when you look at the great wedding feast, Yahshua is saying to us, to his bride-to-be, don't worry, I know exactly what kind of cake you like. I know what kind of dress you need. I know exactly everything that's going to please you. Just show up. Please, just show up. I've got everything under control. And I think this really, this philosophy, this thing that we kind of live with as Westerners, kind of gets in the way of how we view the work of Yahshua and the work of Yehovah and what they're doing to get us, to romance us, to just show up. During Shemini Atzeret, it's a good time to sit back and say, whoa, am I trying to do everything? Am I responding to the call of the king, to the call of my bridegroom? Am I responding appropriately? As Michael Rood says, you respond appropriately to the call. So I hope that you sit with that and consider, how are you responding to the call? And are you being a bride that is going to just force it to happen and tell Yahshua to show up when you want him to show up, or are you going to show up when he's asking you to show up? And your job as a bride is to prepare. And I love how Jim Staley talks about how to prepare. We talk about this at Purim. It's all about how a bride or a queen dresses to meet her king, to meet her bridegroom, to her husband to be. How do you dress? How do you prepare? And it's all really hands down in the idea of preparing by celebrating his holy feast days and setting apart time to be with him, to learn of him, to grow together, so that your heart is connected to his. So when he bursts through those clouds and sends his angels to come get you, it won't be a scary moment. You will want to go. It won't be something that terrifies you. It'll be, you already know him, so you will want to be there in his arms forevermore. Shemini Atzeret is known by many people as Simchat Torah. I think that's how you say it. It's basically when the Jews rejoice over the Torah and they start their Parsha all over again. Parsha readings all over again on the day after Shemini Atzeret. So we need to remember that Simchat Torah, or however you say that, the last great day, Shemini Atzeret, was not the day that Yehovah gave the commandments, and gave the Torah, gave the instructions, made the covenant with Israel. He did that at the base of Mount Sinai back at Shavuot. So Shavuot is really the time to be celebrating the giving of the Torah. Not that we don't celebrate it all the time, because the instructions are something that we as kings and priests, queens and priests, royal priests, need to be actually studying every day. So it says in the Torah that the king should read the Torah, read the instructions, read the covenant every single day. The covenant that Israel has agreed to, you need to read it every day. So as queens, kings, priests in Yehovah's royal priesthood and the Melchizedek priesthood need to be reading every day. So studying and meditating on his thoughts day and night, absolutely. But the celebrating of the giving of it is actually at Shavuot, not at the last great day. So for that reason, it feels like we can get off track with what the day is actually about. There's so much it's about. We have so much to celebrate, so much to think about, so much to study, so much to talk about and do and practice, and how to actually celebrate it with our families, that we don't need other things to do, extra things to do. It kind of gets us off track of what the real purpose is and the real meaning of the feasts are. So just watch out for things like that. It can be subtle. Good, but subtle. And so we have a lot of people asking us, well, okay, not a lot, but we have people every once in a while asking us why Teshuva Ministries doesn't do the Parsha. Why doesn't our family do the Parsha? And I feel like I would like to address that real briefly right here in this video. So the Parsha was basically something that was instituted by the rabbis for Israel to do, to study and whatnot, and it's basically, you know, a lesson plan on what we're supposed to be studying at a certain time of year. But unfortunately, it's not exactly what Yehovah has told us to study at different times of the year. So the thing that we see is that though it's really good to dig into the Torah and the scriptures and to really get at the heart of things, and a lot of teachers that teach the Parsha, oh man, there's some really great things that you learn. The problem with it is that, say during Pesach, you're on the Torah portion and you're talking about the flood, what does the flood have to do with Pesach? So as you can see, the Torah portions do not line up with the fall or the feasts or the Moedim. So Papa has put these Moedim into place to tell us what he wants to talk about on these days and at these seasons as we go through the year. And if we're stuck on Parshas and that's what we're studying, then it's going to kind of detract us from actually studying and talking about what actually we should be talking about during those seasons, during the feast, during the Moedim times. So that's primarily why we don't do it. Doesn't mean that you can't learn a lot from it, but we don't do it because it's not following the Moedim. So there is no way to discover the full depth and meaning of all the feasts throughout the year as we walk through the feast with Yahweh throughout the year and spend time talking about what he wants us to talk about at those different seasons. So I say to those who worry whether you're going to get enough, if you're going to get fed enough, I say don't worry, discover the depths of each of the feasts, and I tell you they will cover all aspects of your life, all aspects of the story and the plan of salvation. Everything that you need to know is in those feasts, in the layers and the depths of those feasts. And then other things, if there is something else, you know, that you need to learn, some other things you need to do with your life, there is the summer months for that. There's some winter months for that. So there is some time between, but trust me, I know after walking this rhythm for so long, it really keeps you hopping, and you really don't have time for too much else. So I really treasure the pearls that Papa brings me during the feast times, and they just keep coming. So I don't feel like I am lacking because I don't take part in the Parsha all the time. I do listen to things once in a while at different times and find some great pearls in there as well. So in closing, to just close out my little video on Shemini Atzeret, which has many things to do with the last great day, the 8th millennium of when Yahweh comes and brings the new Jerusalem, and there'll be a new heaven and a new earth, to the idea of Atzeret and collecting waters, the waters of joy from the things that you have learned over the last year or last fall feast season, to sustain you as you bring light into the darkness of the world around you, and this world throughout the rest of the year until Hanukkah. Then also the idea of the outpouring of the Ruach HaKodesh and the water, life-giving water that comes from the heavens into our lands to make our crops grow, as well as into our hearts that make good crops grow in our hearts, where the Ruach lives now. But let me read to you this last thing in closing here. You may compare Shemini Atzeret to a king who has held a festival for 7 days and invited all of the country's inhabitants, the nations of the world, to the 7 days of feasting. And when the 7 days of feasting are over, he says to his friend Israel, his friend Israel, let us now have a small meal together, just you and I. Obviously, the picture of Shemini Atzeret is of a very intimate union and fellowship, which follows after the broad-based and universal feast of Sukkot. It is a close family reunion with much deeper and more pure insights and depths of meaning and spirituality than the rest of it. Comparing the symbolism of this holy day with the imagery of a bride and bridegroom and their intimate togetherness by themselves after all the guests are gone and all the partygoers depart gives us a special insight into the real spiritual implications of Shemini Atzeret. One day, the bride and groom, Yahshua and Israel, Papa and Israel, the family of Elohim and Israel will have a special day, time to ourselves, an even deeper expression of intimate love, sensitivity, and pure joy seen in the future fulfillment of Shemini Atzeret. And that is going to be an incredible day. tell you, I think I gained 10 pounds this fall feast season with all the food. What do? We eat, don't we? Just eat, eat, eat. Wonderful fall feast season as we have. I hope you have many beautiful memories, shared memories with other Israelites in your area, and that in your heart you have kingdom treasures that are special, that are like treasures that you are going to hold dear to your heart. May those treasures feed you and give you life, and may they carry you through to the end of the year until Hanukkah shows up, the next wonderful festival of Israel that I have a lot to say on, because it is an incredible and a beautiful festival. It's not a feast, but it's a festival that you do not want to miss. So until then, shalom.